Good evening. In the news tonight, preliminary figures indicate the Vincennes School Corporation's building plan may not have survived a month-long petition drive. And get ready for higher gas prices this summer.
In sports, some major league teams had their home opener spoiled this afternoon, and new IU basketball coach Kelvin Sampson has inked his first recruit.
Newscenter 22 is next. Unofficial numbers indicate that the Vincennes School Corporation's nearly $57 million building plan is in big trouble. A petition drive for and against the project ended at 4 p.m. Monday. However, Gerald Pruz, the organizer for the opposition, gave Save Our School says his group gathered a total of 4,581 signatures compared to 2,348 signatures for supporters. Those signatures must still be verified by the Knox County Auditor, and that will take until May 3rd. However, if those numbers are accurate, over 2,200 of those opponents' signatures would have to be thrown out of the building project to move forward. The school corporation's proposal included building a new middle school and 2 new elementary schools. The South Knox School Board has implemented a drug testing program. Superintendent Brad Case says students who take part in extracurricular activities will be required to submit to random drug testing.
Affect students who participate in athletics, extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, things such as National Honor Society, student drivers.
Case says a cotton swab will be used to collect a sample of the student's saliva for testing. A positive test would result in a student being suspended for 20% of their team's contest. A second offense is punishable by suspension from all extracurricular events for up to 1 year. South Knox is the last public school in the county to implement a drug testing policy. The South Knox School Corporation is offering an early retirement incentive for teachers. Superintendent Brad Case says the first 5 teachers who retire at the end of this school year or 2007 will receive $20,000 to help defray health insurance costs after they retire. Case says expenditures have exceeded revenue taken in by the school corporation over the past 4 years, and this is one way to ease that financial burden.
Having a large number of teachers at the top of the salary schedule makes it more expensive, and with our general fund being very tight, the last 4 years our expenditures have exceeded our revenue. We've got to look at methods that will help to turn that picture around.
Case says the money for the payout will come from the school corporation's rainy day fund. A teacher in Illinois is giving a 10-year-old student the gift of life. Patricia Donahue is donating a kidney to one of her 4th graders who has a life-threatening disease. Mark Saxemeyer has more on this perfect match.
Brandon Schaefer looks pretty darn healthy, but he'll tell you.
If I get hit in the stomach, it'll be bad and stuff.
Bad indeed, because Brandon has a bad kidney. He was born with it, and unless he gets a new one soon, he could die. Scary stuff. But Brandon says,
I'm just excited and stuff.
Excited because his 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Donahue, has just found out she and Brandon have matching blood types, which means she can give him her kidney.
Pretty much divine intervention that I came here and ended up to be Brandon's teacher after all of this, and I'm proud to be able to do this for him.
So much for reading, writing, and arithmetic at Oster Oakview Elementary School. The gift of learning has nothing on the gift of life, especially considering that until now, Brandon had no other matches. Yes. His mom says it all.
I just think it's amazing.
He still wants to be just that same student in the classroom, doesn't want any special privileges or anything like that.
In return, Brandon gives Mrs. Donahue a high five and then a gift of his own, something almost as valuable as a kidney.
Gave her an iPod Nano.
The operation is scheduled for next month. When recovered, Brandon has plans, big plans.
To play basketball. Like, for a team at the school.
Beyond that, this fourth grader has his sights set on, well, fifth grade. Mrs. Donahue, however, points out.
Never gonna get rid of your fourth grade teacher.
Mark Saxonmeyer, Fox Chicago News.
The Energy Department predicts gas will average $2.62 a gallon over this summer, 25 cents higher than last summer, but that's actually down a shade from current prices. Officials say hurricane or a refinery outage could put added pressure on gas prices. Meanwhile, look for more Harleys, Kawasaki's, and Hondas on the highways. A new survey by National Mutual Insurance finds that 35% of motorcyclists plan to ride their bikes 22 more hours over the next year than they did in the last year as a result of fuel prices. A Morgan County judge has entered a not guilty plea on behalf of a 30-year-old Ellettsville man charged with murder in the 2000 disappearance and death of Indiana University freshman. John Myers II is charged in the May 31, 2000 disappearance of 19-year-old Jill Bierman. While she was on a morning bicycle ride near Bloomington, her skeletal remains were found 3 years later. Authorities have not received details on how they connected Myers to Bierman. Myers has a criminal history that includes a conviction in 2000 for misdemeanor battery resulting in bodily injury. Kentucky authorities are awaiting toxicology tests in the death of an Indiana University junior who died after a weekend fraternity event in Louisville. 21-year-old Christine Wampler complained of being ill before returning to her hotel room Saturday night. Wampler is the second female IU student to die within the last week. 21-year-old Nicole Berkey was found dead in her bed in a sorority house on April 5th. Terre Haute officials are working to find a new building to keep a U.S. District Court office and other federal agencies from leaving the city. Federal officials announced plans last year to close the court office on January 1st, but reversed that decision to allow the city time to find a new location. The Indiana Department of Transportation says State Road 358 is now open between Knox and Daviess counties. The highway between State Road 67 and State Road 57 have been closed due to flooding. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Iran has announced its enriched uranium for the first time, and the military says 3 American soldiers were killed in a roadside bombing in Iraq today. Stay with us.
Marry a millionaire? Get real. Real college, real experience, real careers, really fast. Vincennes University Preview Days, April 21st or 22nd. Register at vinu.edu.
Win the lottery? Get real. Real college, real experience, real careers, really fast. Vincennes University Preview Days, April 21st and 22nd. Go to vinu.edu.
The Bush administration is condemning what is called defiant statements and actions by Iran. Iran's president said in a TV speech today that Iran has joined the club of nuclear countries. Iranian officials say they've enriched uranium for the first time, that they can make fuel for power plants or bombs. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld insists the U.S. is focusing on diplomacy to get Iran to abandon its nuclear programs. He refused to speculate on any possible U.S. attack on Iran, despite a published report that says the administration has considered one. Shiite politicians still haven't resolved the deadlock over the formation of the new Iraqi government. Representatives of 7 factions met today to discuss the opposition of Sunni and Kurdish parties to the Shiite nominee for prime minister. They'll meet again tomorrow. Meanwhile, the military says 3 American soldiers were killed in a roadside bombing in Iraq today. The blast hit north of Baghdad. The military also today announced 2 other soldiers died from Sunday violence. Iraqi officials say 20 people died in other attacks today, even as another 24 bodies were found. Bigger than a civil rights movement, that's how New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson describes the rallies that have been taking place around the country in support of immigrant rights. He tells CBS is putting enormous pressure on Congress to come up with a sensible legislation plan. In the highly charged debate over American immigration reform, Latinos are often put in the center of the controversy. But those living south of the U.S. border are not the only ones who aspire to a better life in the States. Similar also are their risks and fears about living here illegally. Correspondent Randy Kay profiles one such couple.
For a decade, Brian and Caroline have called America home.
I'm American as much as our President George Bush. I do everything American. I follow the NASCAR, I follow the American football. I hunt like the Vice President Dick Cheney.
They own a home in Yonkers outside New York City, pay taxes, and both have jobs. Brian owns a plumbing business. Caroline works as a secretary.
We want to have a family in this country, but the situation we're in at the minute, we can't go forward. We're stuck.
Stuck because Brian and Caroline, who asked us not to use their last name, are living in the United States illegally.
It's like being at the top of a ladder or 2 rungs from the top, and we can't get to the top.
I'd find it very, very hard to leave here because it just made it our home.
Caroline lives every day in fear of being deported back to Ireland, where they both came from on tourist visas, now long expired.
Is it strange for you because you're living the life of an American citizen, yet you're not a citizen?
Exactly. It's very frustrating for me because, like, I am doing everything an American citizen does, but all I need is that small piece of paper, the green card.
He travels the country to speak out at rallies like this one, held today in New York City.
We're going to stand together!
What would you say are some of the greatest challenges that you face here, living here illegally?
Well, the #1 challenge, as you saw today, is the driving. That's the biggest danger for me at the minute, is not having my driver's licenses.
The law requires anyone applying for a new license provide a valid Social Security number. Since he's illegal, Brian doesn't have one.
I employ 2 Irish guys and 2 American lads, and one of them I actually employed just to drive me around to work.
And travel? That's out of the question. Too risky.
I missed both grandparents' funerals. I couldn't go home for them.
Before the couple's wedding in New York last October, they hadn't seen family and friends in years. They feel they are being treated like terrorists, not like the hard-working, tax-paying citizens in training they consider themselves to be.
Do you see a clear path of citizenship in the future?
Definitely I do. I think the immigration system is definitely broken, and I think they will.
Brian and Caroline hope next year, if immigration reform passes, they will have new visas, and soon after, they'll have children, American citizens who won't have to wait like their parents did to walk freely and legally on U.S. soil. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.
A North Carolina prosecutor says DNA evidence can be helpful, but isn't needed to continue investigating an alleged rape by Duke University lacrosse players. He says up to 80% of sex assault cases lack such evidence. Defense lawyers say the investigation should be dropped because the DNA from the players didn't match evidence from the accuser. Cash-strapped General Motors is selling its stake to Japanese truck maker Isuzu for about $300 million to fund its turnaround in North America. GM had held as much as a 49% stake in the company in 1998. Disposing of the Isuzu stake marks the latest retreat for the company, hurt by huge losses and mounting competition from Asian automakers. European scientists are celebrating the successful orbit of their Venus Express craft. A short time later, they started getting data from it. The probe is supposed to gather information on how Venus wound up in such a hot, dense atmosphere. NASA's planning to blast a hole in the moon and see what comes out. Officials hope there's evidence of water. A mission to place a human outpost on the moon is tied to finding water or ice that could be melted to support the outpost. The crater blast is set for 2009. Keith Urban has won a Country Music Television Award for the video of his song, Better Life. He performed at the song with a displaced choir from the Gulf Coast. Carrie Underwood of American Idol was the only double award winner. It's a crime to drive too fast, and in Los Angeles, it appears to be a crime to walk too slow. An 82-year-old woman received a $114 ticket for taking too long to cross a street in the San Fernando Valley in February. Mavis Coyle said she started walking with her cane across Foothill Boulevard when the light was green, but was not able to make it to the other side before it turned red. She said the officer on a motorcycle who ticketed her told her she was obstructing traffic. On Friday, the light changed so quickly even high school students couldn't make it across without running. The light went from green to red in 20 seconds. Still to come, it was a beautiful day in the Wabash Valley. But what's in store for tomorrow? Kurt Maddox will clue us in when Newscenter 22 continues.
Coming up the next time on 22 Magazine, Knox County Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Mark McNeese talks about the City of Vincennes' efforts to obtain a $500,000 grant to revitalize the Main Street Business District. Also, Larry Martineau, Director of the Knox County Department of Child Services and Division of Family Resources, and Sharon Grayson, a supervisor with the Knox County Department of Child Services, will be here as part of National Child Abuse Prevention Month. The next time on 22 Magazine, Saturday night at 7:30 on WVUT.
I hear there's rain in the forecast. When can we expect the showers?
Yes, there's a 40% chance for tonight and a 30% chance for tomorrow. So we'll have some rain later tonight and early into tomorrow morning. Good evening, everyone. As we take a look outside, it is currently 77 degrees with the wind going south at 28 miles per hour, and the humidity is currently at 31%. The barometric pressure is staying steady at 30.06. As we take a look at some area temperatures over in French Lick, Indiana and Paxton, Indiana, we're currently cloudy and 75 degrees, with Princeton, Indiana coming at cloudy and 76. Over in Lancaster, Illinois, cloudy and 77. Now as our national temp map shows, we have currently 70s and 80s across the Midwest, South, and in the Southeast, while the New England area is coming in at 60s and 50s and 60s. That's a different story out on the West Coast, while Los Angeles is currently at 64 and Sacramento is currently at 49 degrees. Those cooler temps are making its way into Oregon and Washington and as far east as Salt Lake City, Utah, which is currently at 54 degrees. The high for today is down here in Brownsville, Texas at 84, and the low is at Butte, Montana at 45. As our frontal map will show, the colder temperatures are due to this cold front that swept through that area earlier today and later last night, and it brings some rain into the Wabash Valley later in the week. This high pressure system caused all those warm temperatures out on the East Coast, and that's going off New Jersey into the Atlantic Ocean right now. We currently have 3 low pressure systems right here over Nebraska and over Minnesota. That rain will come into the Wabash Valley later this week. And over in California, the low pressure system just came through, which is causing rain all through California and in parts of Nevada. Now let's take a look at your forecast. Tonight, thunderstorms, low of 60 degrees. Tomorrow, isolated thunderstorms, high of 74. Tomorrow night, mostly clear, low of 53. Your extended forecast will break into the 80s on Thursday, where it's going to be sunny, high of 81 and low of 62. Stay in the 80s for Friday, but some thunderstorms as well with a high of 81 and a low of 61. And Saturday, partly cloudy with a high of 80 and a low of 63. And Emma, that's a look at your weather.
Thank you, Kurt. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Michael Nice has the latest from the ballparks, and the Pacers pick up an important win.
During World War I, over 1 million Armenians were put to death at the hands of the Ottoman Empire. To this day, Turkey denies the genocidal intent of these mass murders. Why did this happen? And why has this remained one of the greatest untold stories of the 20th century?
Bannister shuts down Nationals. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Michael Nice. Rookie Brian Bannister limited Washington to 3 hits over 7 innings, and Carlos Beltran slugged a homer off the upper deck facing as the New York Mets spoiled the Nationals home opener 7-1 this afternoon. And at Wrigley Field, Cincinnati unleashed the big lumber in thumping the Cubs 9-2. Over in the American League, Derek Jeter was the opening day hero in the Bronx, hitting the go-ahead 3-run homer in the 8th as the Yankees beat the Kansas City Royals 9-7. Also in the American League, Boston defeated Toronto 5-3. Mark Mulder was given the chance to become the first winning pitcher at new Busch Stadium after taking the loss in the final game at the old ballpark. Mulder came through working into the 9th inning of the St. Louis Cardinals' 6-4 triumph over the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday. The lefty limited the Brewers to 7 hits and a walk, blanking Milwaukee after Bill Hall smacked a 2-run homer in the 2nd inning. Jim Thome again provided the Chicago White Sox with power, and for a change, his teammates gave him some help. Thome and Joe Crede hit 2-run homers, and Paul Konerko added the solo shot, leading Chicago to a 5-3 victory Monday in the Detroit Tigers home opener. The White Sox have a day off today before taking on Detroit again tomorrow. The Chicago Cubs' Derek Lee should be manning first base at Wrigley Field for several more seasons. Today, he signed a 5-year, $65 million contract extension. The new deal runs through the 2010 season. The 30-year-old Lee won the NL batting title last season with a .335 average along with 45 homers and 107 RBIs. The 2-time Gold Glove winner is off to a good start this season, batting .375 in 5 games with 3 homers and 6 RBIs. The Boston Red Sox have placed center fielder Coco Crisp on the 15-day disabled list after he injured his finger sliding into third base. Manager Terry Francona says he expects Crisp to miss several weeks. To fill the roster spot, Boston has called up outfielder Dustin Moore from AAA Pawtucket. The Vincennes University baseball team swept a doubleheader from the Rose-Hulman Junior Varsity on Monday and finds itself at the 500 mark for the first time this season. VU won both games by the 10-run rule, 13-3 in 6 innings and 11-0 in 5 innings. Gustavo Salvador improved his record to 2-2 with the win in the first game with relief help from John Kelly. Chris Guest pitched a complete Game 3 hitter in the second game. The Blazers look to go above the 500 mark when they play a doubleheader today at Anderson. A junior college player who knew Indiana coach Kelvin Sampson had been recruiting for Oklahoma is expected to become his first signed recruit for the Hoosiers. Mike White, a 6'6", 240-pound forward, averaged 19 points, almost 8 rebounds, and 3 blocked shots last season. He's expected to sign a letter of intent tomorrow. Meanwhile, Sampson is still awaiting the decision from DJ White, the 2005 Big Ten Freshman of the Year, on whether he will remain with the Hoosiers. Jeff Capel has been hired as Oklahoma's basketball coach after resigning at Virginia Commonwealth. The 31-year-old Capel replaces Kelvin Sampson and takes over a program under investigation for NCAA rules violations. Capel, who played at Duke, spent 4 seasons with the Rams, compiling a record of 79-41. Sampson was hired as Indiana's coach last month. The Indiana Pacers are inching closer to a playoff spot after losing 8 of their past 10 games. The Pacers got 28 points from Steven Jackson and 23 from Peja Stojakovic in a 101-82 win over the New York Knicks last night. The Pacers moved into a tie for the 6th playoff position in the Eastern Conference. Jamal Crawford led the Knicks with 26 points and 7 assists, but no other Knicks player scored more than 12 points. The Denver Nuggets are division champs for the first time since the 1987-88 season. The Nuggets wrapped up the NBA's Northwest Division crown with a 110-98 triumph at Portland. Carmelo Anthony scored 28 points for the Nuggets, who shot 54% in their 3rd straight win. Marcus Camby and Ruben Patterson each added 21 points to the victory. The Dallas Mavericks are just half a game behind San Antonio for the Western Conference lead. Dirk Nowitzki drained a jumper with 0.7 of a second remaining to give the Mavs their 5th straight win, a 75-73 verdict over the Los Angeles Clippers. Nowitzki had 20 points and 14 rebounds, while the Mavs were holding Elton Brand to 13 points and 9 rebounds. The NBA has expanded playoff rosters to 13 this season, with teams deactivating one player before each game. This will be the first time teams will be allowed to make changes during the playoffs. The new rule was approved today by the league's Board of Governors. The lawyer for Ricky Williams says the NFL has set no timetable to rule on an appeal by the Miami Dolphins running back over his positive drug test. The lawyer and Williams met with the NFL yesterday in an attempt to have the league overturn the test. The positive test could result in Williams' suspension for the entire 2006 season. And Emma, that'll do it for sports.
Thanks, Michael. Still to come on Newscenter 22, a new reality series is weighing in on childhood obesity problem. Jeannie Moves will have the details when we return.
Next time on Austin City Limits, groove to the sounds of Jack Johnson.
Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps of what we're so.
And the playful sounds of Rilo Kiley.
A new reality series is weighing in on the childhood obesity problem, a show that lets parents see what their kids could look like at age 40. There'll be no snacking allowed during Jeannie Moe's report on the new series called Honey, We're Killing the Kids.
For a parent, it's hard to swallow.
You're killing your kids.
But Honey, We're Killing the Kids sure does make a pithy reality TV show title. Remember Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Shrunk and dunked in Cheerios. Well, instead of shrinking, these kids are getting bigger and bigger. In the Learning Channel's new series, a nutritionist confronts families like the Youngs from Long Island.
You won't listen to me! Never talking to Mom again.
Their 3 kids were junk food junkies who watched TV and never exercised. The high point comes in the beginning when Dr. Lisa Hark shows the parents the future.
He already weighs more than most 18-year-old boys.
What their 12-year-old will look like at 40, photo aging is based on data that assumes James will continue his bad habits. The same thing happens with a different family in every episode, and every kid ends up looking like a serial killer.
That's not my Stevie.
Reminds us of a certain green guy. Once they're scared silly, the nutritionist begins a 3-week intervention. The junk food is stashed away, the family shops for healthy items. Mom tries recipes like tofu stir-fry.
The tofu tastes like dirt.
Mom decides to make Robbie eat, otherwise...
He's gonna die. Then it'll be, honey, we actually did kill our children. Swallow now.
To get them off the couch, TV and computer games are limited to 2 hours a day. James rebels.
After I'm 18, I'm gone forever.
Robbie's caught stealing chocolate chip mini muffins from the junk food stash.
Do not put that in your mouth. Do not. If you eat it, no TV for a week.
Some think the photo aging is a bit much. We showed clips to Monique, the star of Fat Girls.
Do I look fat in this? No, Twiggy. I look fat in this. You look ugly in that.
Monique wasn't thrilled with Honey, We're Killing the Kids.
But to show that, that's a form of hatred to me. So what if he looks like that in 40 years? He's a nice-looking, plump guy.
But the nutritionist says changing bad habits will add years to their lives. Now, if you think you're killing your kids, you can apply to be on the show at the Learning Channel website. That's how they recruit families. And there is, of course, a happy ending. Parents see what their kids might look like at 40 if they change their ways.
I'll take him.
Maybe these parents really could say, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Looking like a serial killer beats being killed in cereal. Jeannie Moe, CNN, New York.
And that's all for this evening. For Michael Nice and Kurt Maddox, I'm Emma Hall. Good night.